Morning. Thank you. Please be seated. We'll go on the record in the matter of State of Utah versus Martin MacNeill. Mr. MacNeill is present with his counsel. The state's attorneys are present, with the exception of Mr. Perkins this morning. And we are in the presence of the jury. Thank you for being on time this morning. I want to assure you that we are here before you arrive, working to move the case forward expeditiously. Is the state prepared with its next witness?
Yes, Your Honor. The state calls Heidi Johnson.
Ms. Johnson, if you'll come right here, Ms. Johnson, right up here to the clerk's desk. Please raise your right hand and take an oath.
You do solemnly swear the testimony you shall give in the case now pending before the court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Thank you. If you'll be seated right here and then answer the attorney's questions.
Morning.
Hello.
Will you please state and spell your last name for the record?
It's Heidi Peterson now. At the time it was Johnson. I don't know which name you want.
Let's go with what your name is now.
Peterson, P-E-T-E-R-S-O-N.
And are you currently employed?
Yes, I am.
In what capacity?
I am the Pleasant Grove 911 dispatch manager at the moment.
Okay, and how were you employed on April 11th of 2007?
I was a senior dispatcher at that time.
And what does your job entail?
We answered emergency and non-emergency phone calls. We dispatch police, fire, and EMS, depending on what the nature of the call is.
And how long have you worked as a dispatcher?
17 years.
And so in 2007, that would have been for 11 years?
Yep.
While working on April 11th of 2007, did you receive a call from the MacNeill home in Pleasant Grove?
Yes, I did.
Are these calls recorded?
Yes, they are.
And how long are they retained?
If it's an active case, we keep them indefinitely.
Okay. Did you keep the phone call that was made on that date?
We still have them.
And have you reviewed that recording?
I have.
Is that recording a fair and accurate representation of the phone call you had on April 11th of 2007?
Yes.
And it accurately reflects what you said and what the caller said?
Mm-hmm.
Were you able to identify the caller?
Not at first.
Okay. Will you tell us a little bit about the call?
Objection, Your Honor. I think the call speaks for itself, and this witness describing it would be speculation and opinion testimony.
Is this a best evidence issue? Are you trying to prove the content of a recording?
No, I'm just asking her about the call.
Sustained as to vague. To the extent you're trying to show the content of the recording, it's a best evidence issue.
At this time, I'd like to play the call, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Has it been marked as an exhibit of any kind, or does it exist on a disc? Okay.
We can do that first if the court would prefer.
Yeah, let's have that marked and received before it's played.
Can we report this briefly?
You may. State's Exhibit 14,
We do, Your Honor.
with the exception stated on the record. Any objection?
No objection.
I'll receive State's 14. You may play it.
Police Department. Hey, it's County. How are you? Hi, very good. Good. Hey, we got a distress caller from 305 Mill Creek. Yes? I don't know if you guys have an address like that or not. Yep, we do. I know that area. 305 what? He just said it was, all we could get was 305 Mill Creek. And he said he sounded really stressed out. I don't know what it was. It may have been medical, I think. It sounded more like medical. He mentioned something about his wife. Was it 305, did he give west or south? He didn't. And we tried to get it out of him, and then he disconnected, and nothing came up on our caller ID. Okay, I know it's a gated community we have, so I know. Okay. I wonder, could it have been 3005 Mill Creek, I wonder? It could have been. It sounded like she said 30, because he said 30, I cut the 305 at
Yeah,
it
it's
was
3005 North Mill Creek. Okay.
3005 north?
Yeah, do you have a callback number by chance?
You know, we didn't, nothing came across our screen.
No name or nothing?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Goodbye. Bye-bye.
Pleasant Grove Police Department.
Transfer medical.
I need an ambulance for 305 in Mill Creek.
Okay, what's the problem, sir? Lee Medical. Sir, what's wrong?
I was swollen in the bathtub.
Who's in the bathtub? Who's in the bathtub?
My wife,
Okay, is she conscious?
she's not. She's not, I'm a physician.
Okay, sir. Sir, I need you to calm.
Physician.
Sir, I can't understand you, okay? Can you calm down just a
I
little
need
bit?
help.
Okay, your wife is unconscious?
She is unconscious. She's underwater.
Okay,
In the
did
bathtub.
you get her out of the water?
I can't. I couldn't let the water out. I'm CPR in progress.
She's under the water?
She is out of the water now. The woman was to give me an ambulance.
Okay, is she breathing at all?
She is not.
Okay, sir, the ambulance has been paged. They're on their way, okay? Do not hang up. What? Sir? Oh, shit. No, that one didn't. Why would it... Why would an adult female be so...
Hello.
Sir, this is 911. Can I help you?
I need help.
Okay,
One
sir,
second.
they're on their way. Is your wife breathing?
She is not. I am a physician. I got CPR in progress. Do
You're doing
understand?
CPR. Do you know-
No,
Sir,
surgeon.
how old is your wife?
My wife is 50 years old. She just had surgery here a couple of days, a week ago.
What kind of surgery did she have?
She had a facelift.
She had a facelift?
Yes.
Okay, do you know how to do CPR?
I'm doing it.
Okay, do not hang...
Ms. Peterson, could you tell us what was going on when you first were heard there?
Your Honor, this same objection, I think the call.
I don't think the recording explains what's really going on, Your Honor.
Well, the question's vague. I don't know what it means. Rephrase it. Sustained.
Who were you talking to initially on that recording?
At the very beginning,
Uh-huh.
Mr. MacNeill originally called on a cell phone, and the cell phone was directed to county dispatch, which is in Spanish Fork. And so she was transferring the call to me since that was in our jurisdiction, and so the female that you heard at first was the county dispatcher, and she, I don't know for sure, but it sounded like it was a 911 hang-up call. She, very brief contact with him, and was able to get that first address of 305 North, or 305 Mill Creek, which was not an accurate address. But, so she was just passing it on, and at that time, the partner I was working with was dispatching officers out to do a welfare check when we figured out what the address was, just to see what the situation was, if there was a valid problem.
Okay. And so who called who after you spoke to county dispatch?
He called again, and again it went to county dispatch, and they transferred it back to me again the second time. And that's when you heard her say, it's a medical, and then Mr. MacNeill started speaking.
Okay, and then there was a hang-up,
And we spoke briefly, and then he hung up on me.
and then who called who after that?
I called him back, and he picked up, and we spoke again, and then he disconnected again.
And you and your partner dispatched someone to the residence?
Initially, we just sent police, and then after the second call was transferred to me and could tell that there was a obvious problem, we went ahead and sent medical.
How did you figure out the address?
Well, I'm familiar with Pleasant Grove because I live there also, so I knew that Mill Creek was north of Pleasant Grove, and I knew 305 North wasn't a valid Pleasant Grove address, that it was a lot further north than that. So I just put in some addresses into my CAD line, which is our, where we enter calls into the computer, and it validates if an address is accurate. And 305 did not validate, and so I knew that wasn't right, and tried 3005 North Mill Creek, and it did validate. So at first it was a long shot, but it was the best we could do. Like, may as well send them and, you know, at least make sure.
Okay. Have you experienced other calls like this one?
Objection, Your Honor. Irrelevant. Sure.
What's the relevance of other calls?
Your Honor, under the state's theory, we believe the defendant's actions are fabricated, and this goes to that. It's so unusual.
Sustained.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Do you have cross-examination?
Yes. Good morning.
Hello?
As you have listened to the 911 call since April 11th of 2007, have you been able to identify the address that Mr. MacNeill stated during the call?
Yes.
And were you able, that probably wasn't a good question, at least not the way I asked it, I'm sorry. Were you able from the call to recognize the address and what Mr. MacNeill stated to you during the call?
Don't know if I'm exactly clear on what you're saying, but through doing some research in the computer and just knowing that 305 would not work with Mill Creek, then yeah, I figured it out.
Yeah, and that's great, and you're right. Haven't been able to express myself very well yet. So in the first call that you talked with Mr. MacNeill, which was transferred to you from the county, as I understand your testimony, he gave you an address,
Right.
correct? And you initially didn't understand that address.
No.
Right. You've since listened to the 911 call a number of times. Is that a fair statement?
That is true.
As you have listened to the call over and over again, have you been able to recognize that he gave you the address of 3058 Mill Creek?
No.
Your Honor, I've got to talk with the state, just a slowed down version of.
Okay. Have you heard it?
We're stipulating.
Okay. Have you marked it on a CD?
I don't have it marked. I was going to just play it for her. It's the same exhibit that the state has used.
Go ahead.
May I approach?
You may.
Pleasant Grove Police Department, transfer medical.
So did you hear Mr. MacNeill state an address there?
It sounds like 305 to me.
Okay.
Pleasant Grove Police Department, transfer medical. Okay, what?
Were you able to understand the address better that time?
A little bit.
And what did you hear that time?
I know 8 because you already said it.
Well, I'm just asking from listening to this, were you able to hear him say 3058 Mill Creek?
Yeah.
In both of the phone calls that you spoke with Mr. MacNeill in relation to the 911 calls, you understood that he was attempting to do CPR. Is that right?
Yeah.
And
Said he was, so.
yeah, and you continue to ask him lots of different questions, right? And I assume that that's pursuant to your training to keep a 911 caller on the line while you have.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so you were just following your protocol and trying to come up with whatever question you thought may be relevant and also keep him on the line?
The questions weren't my thoughts. We have protocol cards that we follow, and I was
Okay.
trying to get those questions answered in the order that we're supposed to ask them.
Okay. That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Any redirect?
I'm sorry, could I retract that just maybe for 1 second? We're good, Your Honor. Thank you.
When you're in the middle of a call like this, is it your practice to stop it, go back and review the recording and slow it down to see if you can figure out what was said?
In the heat of the moment, no, there's no time.
Thank you.
Did you spell your last name? Is it E-N or O-N? O-N? Thank you. Anything further of this witness?
No, Your Honor.
May she be released?
Yes, and I can't imagine why we would bring her back for rebuttal, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No objection.
You'll be released from your trial subpoena. You may step down. Thank you. Next.
Your Honor, the state calls Christy Daniels.
Ms. Daniels, if you'll come up right here, face the clerk's desk, please raise your right hand and be sworn.
Do you do solemnly swear the testimony you shall give in the case now pending before the court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Thank you. Please be seated here and respond to the attorney's questions.
Good morning. How are you feeling today?
Fine.
Good. Will you state your name and spell it for the record, please?
Christy Daniels is Kristi Daniels.
Thank you. Do you know the MacNeill family, or did you?
Yes,
How did you meet them?
they were my neighbor.
Where did you live when they were your neighbor?
In Creekside at Pleasant Grove.
Okay. What's that neighborhood called?
Creekside,
It's called Creekside? Okay. What's the street called then?
3034 Mill Creek Road.
Okay. Mill Creek Road and 3034, what's that number pertain to?
Oh, that was my address.
Okay. Where did the MacNeills live in relation to your home at that?
Just to the north of me.
Okay. And do you still live in that neighborhood?
I do not.
Okay, so we're talking about an old home. That's how I'll refer to it from now on. Will you describe how your homes were set apart from each other, or how they related to each other spatially?
Our home shared a driveway, kind of.
Okay. So what sides of your houses faced each other?
The garages faced each other.
Okay. May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
I'm showing you what has been marked as State's Exhibit number 15. Do you recognize the contents of that photograph?
Yes, my old house and the MacNeill's house.
Okay, and what's kind of in the center of the photograph there?
The concrete pad, what do you,
Okay, and the concrete pad for what? What is that concrete pad?
it just shares the driveway? I don't,
Okay, that's all I'm asking. Your Honor, the state offers to admit Exhibit 15.
Can I just see which picture
Oh,
it is?
I'm sorry.
No objection.
15 is received.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state requests permission to publish it.
Will you be referring to other photographs with this witness?
I will.
Could we just collect them together and publish them all at once?
That's fine with me, except for the fact that we'd like to show it on the screen so that she can describe her house in relation to the defendant's.
I thought you were going to pass the photograph around. If you can show it here, great. Go ahead.
Okay, Mrs. Daniels, what we're showing on the screen here is the same photograph as that in Exhibit 15. Would you, sorry, if I could, Your Honor, if I could step away so the jury can all see it without craning.
I don't know.
I'm not going to pull this any
Yeah,
farther.
thank you.
Can you all see it okay? Would you describe to the jury which house is yours?
my house is on the right and the MacNeill's is on the left.
Okay, all right, this is your old house.
Oh yeah, my old house.
And where are the front doors to these homes?
Right in the middle. So mine, where the tree is in the picture is probably where my front door was, and then in the tree. And
So the tree that's kind of on the right is obscuring your front door? Is that what you're saying?
kind of, yeah, but it's not far from that. And then, the front door is right around that tree in the MacNeill's house. I don't know.
Your Honor, may I approach?
You may.
I'm sorry, Christie,
That's all right, I'm just making sure I'm getting it right.
this button, if you'll use that to point the laser.
Okay.
So will you point that laser at where you were saying your front?
So my front door is probably like right here, and the MacNeill's front door is just around this little bin right here, right there.
Okay, thank you.
Little shaky, sorry.
Okay. Can you put the lights back on? Thanks. Have you kept in touch with any of the MacNeills since moving from this neighborhood?
No.
Okay. Do you recall events at the MacNeill house on April 11th, 2007?
The ones that I was involved in, yes.
Yes, okay. Around, let's say around 11 o'clock that morning, where were you?
I was in my living room.
Okay, and what were you doing?
I had two friends over in my living room. We were talking.
Okay. Okay, can I have just a minute, Your Honor?
You may.
Okay. Were there children present with you?
Yes. They were running around in the house, not really in the living room, but yeah.
Okay. Will you tell us their first names?
My son Daxton, Chloe, and Melissa.
Okay. Who were the friends that were with you that morning?
Angie Aguilera and Cassie Lytle.
Okay, thank you. Will you describe what happened between 11 o'clock and noon that morning that brought you into contact with the MacNeills?
There was a knock on my front door, and I could tell it was a kid's knock because we get a lot of kid knocks, but we were in the front room, so I went to the front door, and it was Ada, and she just said, "My dad needs some help."
Okay. Do you recall what time this was?
No.
Okay. And will you tell us who Ada is?
Ada is the youngest of the MacNeill family.
Okay. Will you describe her demeanor, how she was acting?
She seemed pretty calm to me, didn't seem out of breath or anything. She just said, my dad needs some help.
Okay. What was your reaction to her saying that?
I said, okay. So we started to head back over to the MacNeill house, out my front door.
Okay. And so you went out your front door, and then will you describe how you got to the MacNeill's front door?
And then by the time I got to the middle of our driveways, I could hear Martin yelling that he needed help. I need some help, I need some help. So I started running. Ada just stayed behind, but I started running and went into the house and followed Martin's voice. And when I came in to the bathroom, I could tell that we needed to call 911. So I said, I'll call 911. And he said, I've already called 911. But by that time, I was already halfway out. So he said, I need some help, I need some help. So I was running back to my house to get my cell phone to call Doug.
Okay, thank you. Real quick, who's Doug?
That's my husband.
Okay. I'd like to back you up a little bit. You said you heard Martin calling for help about the middle of the driveways. What entrance into the MacNeill home did you use?
The front door.
Was it closed or open?
It was open.
When you walk into the MacNeill's house, let me ask you, how familiar are you with that house?
Not at all. That was my first time in the house.
Okay, so we'll test your memory here then. As you walk into the house, where did you go? Let me ask you, where did you hear Martin's voice coming from?
To the left is what I remembered, like kind of down a hallway and then to the right and into the bathroom.
Okay, so when you turn into the right, do you go straight into the bathroom?
I don't really remember. I think it's kind of like a little angle. So you got to go in the room and then to the bathroom. But I don't really remember too well.
Okay. You said you saw, or you found Martin in the bathroom, and you mentioned something about 911. Can you tell us more about that?
Objection, Your Honor. Foundation. Timing.
Can you rephrase the question?
Sure. As you went into the bathroom, will you describe what happened?
Same objection. Which time?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Sorry. She has
sustained.
mentioned 2 times. That's correct. The first time, so you ran up, you went down the hallway, this first entrance into the home. Will you describe what happened?
And that objection would be already asked and answered.
Overruled, she may answer.
Okay, so when I'm not exactly sure what's going on, but when I first went in, I saw that Michelle was in the tub and Martin was over the tub, so I knew that something obviously urgent needed to happen.
Okay.
My first response was, I'll call 911. I was headed back out because...
Let me ask you, I'm going to slow you down a little bit. Your first response was to call 911. Is that a thought or is that something you said?
No, I said it. I said, I'll call 911.
And what was Martin's response?
He said, I've already called 911. I need help getting her out of the tub.
Okay, so what was your next action?
I went back to get my phone from my house to call Doug because he was in the neighborhood. And I didn't think that Martin could get her out of the tub, and I couldn't get her out by myself, so I went back to get my phone to call Doug first, because I know the 2 of us could do it, but since my friends were there, I went and I had Angie come back over with me.
Okay, I'm going to back you up again.
Okay.
Before you leave the bathroom the first time, will you describe what you saw in there?
Michelle was in the tub, and Martin was over her. Over her head, the top part of her, like over her head, just
Okay.
over at her head,
Where were you standing?
in the doorway.
All right.
You may.
May I approach the witness?
You may.
Thank you. I'm showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 16. It's a photograph. Do you recognize that?
Yes,
Will you tell us what's in it, in the photo?
the bathroom, their bathroom,
There being whose?
the MacNeill's bathroom.
Okay. And your state offers to admit State's Exhibit number 16.
Can I see which picture?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
16 is received.
And again, Your Honor, the state moves to publish this on the screen.
Very good.
Okay, so what we're looking at is the same photograph that's in State's Exhibit number 16, and you said that's the MacNeill's bathroom, is that correct?
Yes,
Is this the view that you had when you were standing in the doorway?
yes,
And do you see the faucet? You can grab your laser pointer there. Will you point out where the faucet is?
right there.
Okay. You said that Michelle MacNeill was in the bathtub, is that correct?
Yes.
Will you describe her position in the tub?
Her head was right here about,
Okay, and you're pointing to underneath the faucet?
yes, and her feet were, her legs were over here.
Okay, and were her legs and feet inside or outside the tub?
Her feet were inside the tub.
Okay?
I mean, it's, yeah.
If you need
Her
to
feet were
explain further,
inside.
go ahead.
No, they were inside the tub.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
I'm now showing you, or giving to you, State's Exhibit number 17. Do you recognize that?
It's the MacNeill's bathroom.
Okay, is it the same photo as number 16?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, is there a pen available to the witness up there?
I have a black one. Do you need a different
have
color?
one. What's that?
I have black. Do you need a different color?
Black will be fine. Will you mark on number 17, a circle where her head was and an X where her feet were, as you've pointed out on the screen here? Thank you. Now, when you said Martin was over her, where was he in the bathroom, if you can use your laser pointer?
Right about right here.
So you're pointing to the area near the faucet, near the shower door, is that correct?
Yes.
Was he facing you or was his back to you?
No, his back was to me.
And was he standing up straight?
No, he was on, I want to say one knee, but
Okay. And I believe you said he was hunched over?
yeah, like over her face.
Okay. Could you see Martin's face at that point?
No,
Could you see Michelle's face?
no,
Could you see Martin's hands?
no. I wasn't in there very long to really look at anything at that point.
Okay. Other than kind of standing over Michelle, could you see whether Martin was doing anything?
Not at that point.
Okay. Let's talk about the bathtub. Was there water in it?
No,
Okay. Did you see any blood?
no,
How about on the floor?
no.
Okay, now, this photograph, is there water on the floor in this photograph?
Yes,
Is that how the floor looked when you first arrived at the MacNeill's residence?
no, I don't remember. No,
Okay. Do you remember a puddle being on the floor? when
no,
you first walked in? Okay. Did the bathroom look, well, what condition was the bathroom in?
it was clean, but when I first walked in, it was so fast, I didn't really see anything other than the first time when he was yelling for help, I didn't notice anything.
Okay,
Just that he was over Michelle and that we needed to get some help.
okay. Now, could I have just one moment, Your Honor?
You may.
Could we have the lights back? Thanks. Just so we can be clear, we have here in front of us a bathtub, and we're using that to demonstrate to the jury what you're describing on the photograph and what you've marked on exhibit number 16. Your Honor, may I explain to the witness some of the clarifications we've made regarding the sticker on the tub?
You may.
Thank you. Do you see a red sticker on this bathtub?
Yes.
Okay. The parties have agreed, for the purpose of orientation, that is where the faucet that you showed us in the photograph was. So if we were to be looking at this tub similar to the photograph, we'd be standing somewhere over here, kind of in the doorway. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, can I have permission to have the witness come down to the...
You may. If you'll step down to the demonstrative exhibit, please.
Will you show the jury where her head was?
Like right here.
Okay. And would you say it was it above this line, or was it below it, or how would you describe that? If you recall.
I want to say like halfway, like, like right here would be above the line, and the rest of it would have been in the tub.
Okay.
Okay.
Your Honor, just want to make a record that the motions that Mrs. Daniels made was that she kind of motioned her hand across the back of her head, kind of up toward the top of her of her head, above the ears, and saying that that's where Michelle's head was in relation to the top of the tub.
Thank you. The record will so reflect.
Thank you.
May I just ask a quick clarifying question on that to make sure I'm understanding the...
You may.
And so the back of her head halfway up was... May I approach?
You may.
You say the back of her head was about here so that the top was sticking out above the tub?
Not really, not a lot. I would say her head was more in the tub than out of the tub, but I think a little bit was out. But.
Okay. Thank you.
Very good. May she be seated?
I just have a couple more
Okay,
questions.
go ahead.
Will you show us where her feet were? Okay, down inside?
Yeah.
Okay. How were her legs positioned?
Kind of,
Okay. Your Honor, the witness is bending her leg, and motioning.
Okay.
Okay, let's have you describe in the tub where her knees would be.
I think they were over here.
Okay, and you're saying with that leg motion, you're saying they were bent up?
Yes, bent up kind of over here, just kind of so she's kind of slumped in the tub with her knees.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. You may be seated again.
Now, I'm going to ask you a question. You said her head was, you've described where her head was. Was she, could you see her face? No, let me ask you a better question. You've already said you could not see her face. Let me ask you, why could you not see her face?
Because Martin was over it and I was standing in the doorway at that time.
Okay. When she was in the tub, was she face down or face up?
Face up.
Okay, so eventually, well, I'll ask a further question when we get there. Do you remember how Michelle was dressed, if she was dressed?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember her being dressed? Is that what you're saying? I'm sorry, Your Honor, can I strike that and rephrase it?
Yeah.
Was Michelle dressed or not?
What I remember is Michelle had a long black sleeve shirt on, like a t-shirt, a long black sleeve t-shirt on. What I remember from the beginning, and nothing else.
Okay, no bottoms.
No bottoms.
Okay, so you said you got a quick look at this and then you left.
Yes.
You called Doug. Now, when you left the home, did you leave the same route that you entered?
Yes, through his front door to my front door.
Okay. And when you got back to your house, what did you do?
I grabbed my cell phone and grabbed Angie. I said, Angie, I need you to come with me. And so then I was calling Doug on my cell phone and running back over to the MacNeill's house.
And when you called Doug, what were you saying to him?
Martin needs help, Martin needs help. Hurry, come fast.
Okay. Would you, how fast were you going in between homes?
At that time, I was a pretty fast runner, so I don't know.
Were you running?
I was running,
Okay. And when you went back, were you running also?
yes.
And how close behind you or in front of you was Angie?
She was pretty close behind me.
Okay. What happened when you got back to the MacNeill's house?
When we came back into the MacNeill's house, I said, Angie and I are here. And he said, I need some help. I need Emil's help to get her out of the tub. And I said, I've called Doug, and Doug came running in.
Okay.
So,
Did you offer to help Martin at that point?
well, when I said Angie and I are here, I thought I was kind of offering, but no, I didn't really say we could do it.
Okay.
I just said Angie and I are here to, we're here. I don't think I said we're here to.
And the offer was implied?
Yes,
Okay. And he said he needed Emil's help?
that's what I remember.
Okay. Well, how did you respond to that?
Well, Doug came in at that point, so it didn't matter. I didn't have to respond to anything.
Okay. At this point, when this second time that you're interacting with Martin, where were you?
Back towards her feet of the tub.
Will you point out where you were standing?
Yeah, we were back here. We had run in and then went back here because Martin was still here.
Okay. And why did you go toward her feet?
Just because Martin was right there, so.
Okay. Okay. At that point, could you see Michelle more clearly?
Yes.
Come bring the lights up, thanks. Would you describe her appearance?
Well, I remember the fluid out of her nose
Okay.
right there. But
Will you describe that fluid?
green and whitish, I don't know.
Okay, what did it look like to you?
A lot of snot.
Okay. Will you describe her hair, what you remember of her hair?
I don't remember it being wet on the ends, you know. It kind of looked like it was just, like she might have been wearing a headband, but she wasn't wearing a headband, you know.
So it's kind of, are you saying,
Michelle always had very nice put-together hair, everything else, and so it just was like if you were going to bed, not for anybody to see.
okay. So in the privacy of her home.
Yes.
Do you remember whether her hair was wet or dry?
I don't remember it being wet.
Okay. Do you remember it being dry?
Yes, I would say, yes.
Okay. What do you recall of her face besides the fluid that you've described?
It was, to me, it was kind of greenish, a little color of greenish. I don't know, it wasn't, she's very pale anyways, so just the coloring kind of looked a little more green, but her body was white.
Okay. Did you see any cuts or wounds or anything like that on her face?
Not when she was in the tub, no.
Okay. Do you remember whether her eyes were, what her eyes were like?
I don't remember.
Okay. Do you remember they were open or closed?
I don't remember.
Okay. Do you remember whether there was blood on her?
Well, after we got her out of the tub,
Let's just talk about this point where she's still in
No.
the tub. Okay. No blood at that point. At this point, you've described her face. I'm assuming you could see it. Was she face up or face down in the tub?
face up. Her
Okay.
back was along the back side of the tub.
Okay. Do you recall what Martin was wearing?
I just remember brown slacks and his lab coat, something that he wore often.
I'm sorry, what was that last part?
Something that he wore often.
Okay. How was he behaving?
At that point, just to get her out of the tub, just trying to get her out of the tub.
All right. Was he, now describe what he was doing that makes you say he was trying to get her out of the tub.
I mean, that's all kind of fast, so I mean, he was just over her and then just, I don't know,
Do you recall where his hands were at this point?
when Doug came in or just,
Before
No.
Doug comes in?
no,
know it's
I didn't
fast,
know, yeah, no, I didn't see where his hands were before that.
but- Okay. Was he lifting her?
I don't know, before Doug came in, I don't know for sure.
Okay. How long would you say it was before, between the time that you entered the bathroom for that second time and when Doug came in?
Not long at all. Not long.
Like a couple minutes, a couple seconds?
No, it would have been seconds, less than 30 seconds, but no more. I wouldn't think
Okay.
anymore.
Okay. Did Martin say anything during that time?
No, just, no, because we just said, I said, Angie and I are here, and he said, I need help getting her out of the tub. I need Mel's help to get her out of the tub. But at that point, Doug had come in, so it was,
Okay. Well, even after Doug came in, did he say anything else that you remember?
no.
Okay. What did you see happen after Doug entered?
Doug went straight to her legs, and they lifted her out of the tub and put her on the floor. And I said, I know CPR. I'll do the compressions if you want to do the mouth-to-mouth. And so we started that. And I just did one round of compressions, and Doug said, I can do that. You go out and wait for the ambulance. So I hopped over Michelle and went out the front door and waited for the ambulance.
Okay. Again, I'm going to back you up and get a little more detail about that. You said Doug went to her feet. Where was Martin?
Still at where I pointed before, at the top of or where Michelle's head was.
Okay. And when he and Doug lifted her out of the tub, where was Martin lifting?
Underneath her arms.
Okay. And I'm sorry to keep doing this. Can we put the lights on again? When they lifted her out of the tub, where did they place her?
On the floor, right here.
Okay. Right next to the tub?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Well, like in the middle, because I was right here when I was doing the chest compressions. Martin was over here, like in front of the door. So I had to hop over Michelle to go out.
So when you were doing chest compressions, you were on the side of her body, if I could make a record, Your Honor. You were on the side of her body that's closest to the tub in the shower,
Yes,
and Martin was on the side closest to the door?
yes.
You said you offered to help with CPR, you could do the compressions if Martin would do the breathing. Was that your suggestion?
Yes.
Did you in fact do that?
I did one set of compressions, yes.
Okay. Are you trained in CPR?
Yes.
Are you certified? Did you get a certification for that?
Yes.
And let me ask you, were you certified in April of 2007?
Yes.
Okay. While you were doing the chest compressions, were you able to see what Martin was doing?
I wasn't looking.
You were not looking? Okay. Could you even see peripherally?
Yes. I mean,
Was he near her face?
yes.
Okay. Did it appear to you whether he was doing the
Yes.
breathing? Okay. While you were doing the, will you describe the process of CPR, chest compressions, breathing? How does that work? Just briefly.
2 breaths, check for chest rise, and then you start with the compressions.
Okay. So are you doing compressions and breathing at the same time?
No.
Okay.
So you do the 2 breaths, make sure the chest rise, and then you do the compressions.
Okay. Do you remember whether you did compressions first or whether Martin did breaths first? Was it in that order that you described?
I don't remember.
Okay. Do you recall whether, did you notice whether Michelle's chest rose during the breaths part?
No,
You don't remember, or?
I don't remember.
Okay. You described mucus on Michelle's face. When you took her out of the tub, was it still there?
Yes,
Or excuse me, not when you took her out of the tub, when she was removed from the tub and placed on the floor.
yes. I don't ever remember a process of wiping the mucus off, but it was fast. Everything was fast, so,
Okay, that was my next question. Did you see anybody wipe it off?
no,
Did you see any mucus transfer to Martin's face?
no,
Did you see any blood flow during your compressions or the breathing?
no, I didn't see any blood flow. But I did notice that she had some stitches here and here, but that was it.
Okay,
It looked like they were open, but no blood flow. So it looked red, but no blood flow.
okay. Do you recall whether she had any bandages or anything else besides stitches on her face?
No,
Did you see any water come out of her?
no,
Do you remember how her skin felt while you're doing, well, let me ask. When you're doing compressions, was she still clothed?
no,
So when you had your hands on her chest, was that skin to skin?
yes,
Do you remember how her skin felt?
no, it didn't, there wasn't any, she wasn't warm and she wasn't cold. It was, I don't remember thinking she was either way.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to clarify that a little bit. Did it feel like a normal live person's skin? When you say wasn't warm, wasn't cold, are you saying, wait, let me rephrase that.
It was just normal to touch. Like when I touched her, I didn't think, oh my gosh, she's really cold. I didn't think, oh my gosh, she's really warm. There was no, I didn't have anything trigger when I touched her.
Okay. So it didn't register one way or the other?
Right.
Okay. Did it feel abnormal?
No.
Okay. You said you did one set of CPR compressions,
Yes.
and you've said Doug came in and said he'd take over. You stepped over her body. What did you do after that?
Went out and waited for the ambulance.
Okay. Do you recall about how long you were outside before the ambulance arrived?
It felt like a long time.
Okay.
I don't know how long, but it felt like a long time. The hospital is probably 2 to 3 miles away from the old neighborhood, my old neighborhood. And
Which hospital are you talking about?
Well, the American Fork Hospital.
Okay.
I don't know which ones come when
Well,
they
that's
call,
okay.
but
The one you're talking about is the one I wanted.
yes. In my mind, there's a hospital that's close to our neighborhood that it shouldn't have taken as long as it did when I'm waiting out there.
What were you doing while you were waiting?
Just standing there. I wasn't doing any.
When emergency responders arrived, what did you do?
I stayed in the driveway.
Okay. Do you recall, how long were you there in the driveway?
I stayed until they pulled away, till the ambulance went away when they took Michelle into the ambulance and then pulled away.
Do you remember how long that was?
No, it was a long time. I mean, they were in the house for a while.
Okay. And you stayed out there the whole time after Doug took over. When you saw Michelle being removed from the home, what were you able to see her body?
Yes.
And what were you able to, what did you observe then?
I saw her head, and then the stitches on this side of her head, because she was coming out, the way I was standing, this side of her head, it looked like there was a little more blood coming out right here. But that's all that I saw,
Okay.
that I remember that I noticed.
What did you do after, after the ambulance took her?
I went back in the home, and Cassie was kind of watching the kids. Ada was at my house, and she stayed at my house just to play until somebody came and got her.
Did you tell her anything about what had happened? Her being Ada?
No, I didn't ask her anything other than I didn't want to ask her too many questions. I didn't want to be involved in any of that. I didn't know what she'd seen or anything, but I did say, "Did you come and get me first?" And she said, "I went to Kristen's house first," which is the neighbor on the other side of the MacNeill's home.
Okay.
That's the only thing that I really remember of our conversations.
Okay. But you were not the one, well, let me ask you. Did you tell her what had happened to Michelle?
No.
Okay. Did you ever interact with Martin? Well, let me ask you this. Do you know what the outcome of Michelle being taken to the hospital was?
Yes, that she died.
Okay. Did you ever talk to Martin after Michelle's death?
Yes, we had a conversation that he told me that. Oh yeah.
Can I ask you when this conversation happened?
Maybe 1 or 2 days after, but I don't know for sure.
Okay.
We were just out in the driveways, just in the common driveway part, and he told me that she died of some kind of heart problem, like the basketball player that just died over on the court. And I don't remember any of the names of any of it, but that's how he referred it, is that I would know that a basketball player just died, but I didn't know that either.
You didn't know about the basketball player?
Right, but it was just some kind of heart thing. And then he said that, the doctor had called, they had a conference call with the doctor and made sure that the family knew that it was nobody's fault, that it was just all natural. And I asked him, I asked him, I said, "Well, Martin, how you doing? Because I heard that, you only had like 6 months to live." And he said something to the effect of, "Don't write me off yet. I'm still here now," or something to that effect.
Okay.
But, I think in that conversation,
Non-responsive.
Sustained.
Did Martin ever offer any other explanation for what caused Michelle's death?
no.
Okay. Could I have 1 minute, Your Honor?
You may.
Just a couple more questions. We're going to rewind a little bit. Way back at the beginning, when Ada first came to your door, do you recall what she was wearing?
Her school uniform.
Okay. And then when you talk about, we've seen the distance between MacNeill's front door and your front door roughly, but can you give us an estimation of how much time it would have taken you to get back to the MacNeill's house after you picked up Angie?
Less than 30 seconds. It's not going to be long.
Okay. Do you know whether Martin ever arranged for someone to care for his younger daughters?
Objection, Your Honor, relevance,
Overruled.
foundation.
Sustained as to foundation, if you can establish time and place. Right now, the question is, did it ever happen? Is it?
Yeah, my question is whether she knows,
Yeah,
actually.
she may answer whether she knows.
Do you know whether or not?
After Michelle died,
That's correct.
if he arranged for, Okay.
Can you restate the
I'll
question?
restate the
Go ahead.
Sure. I mean, I know what I know, but I don't know how you're asking.
That's fine. That's my fault, and I'll try to make it better. When it comes to, after Michelle's death, did you ever learn whether Martin had arranged for someone to care for his younger children?
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor, foundation and hearsay.
I don't know how she learned, overruled as to hearsay and foundation. You may proceed.
How did you learn about that?
We found a phone in the park that is in the middle of the neighborhood, that all of our front doors face. We found a phone in the park, we meaning me, and I tried to get my husband to unlock it because it was locked. So I found a phone in the park and then we tried to find out whose it was. We kind of asked around the neighbors, but nobody was answering. And then later, I think it was even the next day, we could have had it for that long. Two of the MacNeill girls came and said, did you find a phone? We've been missing a phone. I want to say they said the nanny.
Okay. And did you return the phone to them?
Yes.
Can you find out when that conversation occurred?
Sure. Do you remember, let's talk about in relation to Michelle's death on April 11th. Do you remember when that happened? We're talking about the phone, when that happened?
When I found the phone after Michelle's death, it was probably 3 weeks, maybe less.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach?
You may.
Mrs. Daniels, I'm showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 18. It's a photograph, and do you recognize the person in that photograph?
This was the nanny.
Okay. Let me first run you through a certain set of questions. Do you recognize the person there?
Yes.
Okay. And who is that person?
We knew her as Jillian, as the nanny.
Okay.
That was nanny.
Did you ever see her around the neighborhood?
After Michelle's death, yes.
Yeah. And what time range was she there? What time range did you see her?
All the time. What?
Okay, well, I'm sorry, I'm asking very general questions. After Michelle...
We saw her a couple of times at the park, just sitting out with the kids, and then...
And in relation to Michelle's death, when is it that you saw her at the park?
About 3 weeks.
Okay, about the same time you found the phone?
Yeah.
Okay. Your Honor, the state offers Exhibit 18.
You seen it?
I've seen it. Yes.
Any objection? 18 is received.
Thank you, Your Honor. Could I have 1 minute?
You may.
Were you ever introduced to this woman you knew as Jillian?
Like an official introduction?
Yeah,
I don't remember official introduction. I mean,
Okay.
I'd say hi at the park. I saw her a couple times outside, outside the neighborhood, say hi. But as far as an official introduction, I don't remember that.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you have cross?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Good morning. You've had the experience of being on this witness stand before, is that right?
Just for the pretrial.
For the preliminary hearing? Yeah. Do you remember testifying at the preliminary hearing?
Yeah.
And that was in October of 2012?
Yes.
And prior to that, you were also interviewed by the investigators, Doug Whitney and Jeff Robinson?
Yes.
Do you recall that as well? And when you first walked into the bathroom or ran into the bathroom, maybe the best way to say it is when you first went into the bathroom, it appeared to you that Martin was trying to give Michelle CPR. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, I assumed that.
And the second time that you came into the bathroom and Martin said that he needs Amel's help, as I understood your testimony, before you could even respond, Doug came right in.
Yeah. I mean, it was fast like that. It wasn't anything that, yes. My answer is yes.
And you testified that as you were doing CPR, the compressions, it was skin to skin, and you didn't remember thinking that her skin was cold or that it was warm, correct?
Yes.
So fair to say that it felt like typical body temperature to you?
Yes.
Doug, after you started doing compressions, you did one set or round, as I understand?
Yes.
And then Doug suggested that you go wait for the ambulance,
Yes.
right? And when you left the house to wait, there hadn't been any police officers or ambulance crew arrive at that time, right?
Correct.
And so you waited in the driveway until the first responders came,
Yes.
correct? And were they police officers or ambulance personnel that came first?
I think the ambulance.
Okay. And you saw the ambulance?
Yes.
Okay. And then the police officers came after that?
Yes.
Okay. And that's your recollection?
Yes.
Okay. When you first went into the bathroom, you actually went to a point that you could tell that there was no water in the tub, correct?
I would say there's no water in the tub.
Okay. You went over so that you could perceive that. Fair statement?
I don't know if it's a fair statement or not. Because I did not look inside the tub, so there could have been a little bit of water, but there was no water that I could see from where I was at.
Okay. I was just
Tell if she was like in a tub of some sort, but not if there was a little bit of water at the bottom of the tub.
You may.
Okay.
Would you review page 254 there? At the preliminary hearing, you were asked the question, fair to say that you're confident that the tub was drained when you first walked in? And you answered yes, correct?
I did.
And then the question was, did you stand in a position where you could look over and see into the tub? And you answered yes.
Yes.
Correct? And is that still the way that you recall it today?
Yes, I think that I could have seen if there was water covering her body, but I did not look to see if there was, this much water in it or not, is what I'm trying to clarify. I don't know.
Okay, so I understand. So what you're saying is you didn't see any water
Right.
when you first walked in, but if there was some under her body, you couldn't tell. Is that a fair statement?
I think so.
Okay.
In my mind, the tub was empty.
Okay. After you first walked into the bathroom, you went back to your house and got your phone and called Doug.
Yes.
You were frantic, weren't you?
Just hurry. Just hurry.
Doug couldn't understand what you were saying when you called, could he?
Yes, because I was running and trying to hurry, and when I get excited, I talk fast.
And he had to tell you or he told you that he couldn't understand you, right?
Yes. It's a common problem in our marriage, though. It's not.
I won't even comment on that one. And you've described with Mr. Perkins the clothing that you recall Michelle wearing when you saw her, correct?
Yes.
And you only recall her wearing a black long-sleeve T-shirt, correct?
Well, I remember a white, tank top, not, I think you call them a wife beater, but I don't know. Just a white tank top, not, I know that was under it, but I don't know. I do recall the black long-sleeve T-shirt.
Okay. And you're certain that she did not have on a bra, correct?
Yes.
And that's what you indicated at the preliminary hearing, that you
Yes.
were certain she did not have on a bra, right?
Yes. And she had nothing else on.
That's on. And you're certain that she didn't have on any garments,
Yes.
correct? As you and Martin were performing CPR, you didn't observe anything that led you to say, Martin, you need to change something, did you?
I didn't know. I have been trained in CPR, but I've never ever wanted to do it.
Actually do it.
Or anything else, and I knew that Martin was a doctor, so I just figured he knew what he was doing.
Okay. And you didn't see anything that led you to believe otherwise, right?
No, but I wasn't, no.
Okay. On the morning of April 11th of 2007, before you went over to the MacNeill home, you didn't notice anybody coming or going from the residence, correct?
No.
Sharing a driveway with them, it wasn't uncommon for you to notice people coming and going,
Yes.
correct? Prior to Michelle's passing, you had noticed Martin with a boot on his foot. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you had noticed him walking with a cane periodically,
Yes.
correct? And you had, well, do you recall what period of time prior to her passing that you noticed Martin with with foot
I
issues?
don't remember it being a long time before Michelle died that it was, but I don't remember the time-wise if that's.
Okay. That's all the questions I have.
Thank you. Redirect?
Yes, please, Your Honor.
You may. Can you tell me what volume you're in?
Volume 1.
Thank you.
Mrs. Daniels, was it your routine to monitor the MacNeill's comings and goings?
No,
Were you watching their house on the morning that Michelle died?
no,
Did you notice or hear anyone leaving arriving to or leaving that house that morning?
no.
That's all, thank you.
Thank you. May Ms. Daniels be released from her trial subpoena. Thank you. Can she be when we're done, or do you need her back?
We'd like to reserve the right to recall her for rebuttal.
Okay, Ms. Daniels, you'll remain under your trial subpoena. If you are needed back, you'll be contacted. The jury may have some questions for you. Could you collect those? Just pass them to the end of the row. Thank you for your reminder. Counsel, will you approach? Ms. MacNeill, the jury has just a few questions. I'm sorry, Ms. Daniels, the jury has a few questions for you. Were you looking at anything specifically while Martin was performing the breathing before you performed compressions?
I wasn't looking at anything specifically.
Okay. Was Martin on the phone with dispatch at any time while you were in the home?
Not that I was aware of.
How did Michelle's shirt come off?
I remember the white tank top just being kind of up over her chest area, but I don't know. The black shirt, I have no idea. That's just what I remember seeing her in first because it was a long sleeve shirt and she was in the tub. I don't know on the black t-shirt, but I do remember the white tank top kind of just being up here doing compressions.
Your Honor, before we go to the next question, could I make a record about the motions she was making?
You may.
It appeared that Ms. Daniels was motioning above the chest, above the female breasts.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Do you accept that proffer?
Yes.
Thank you. Where is the park in relation to the two houses you've described?
The park is right in the middle of the whole neighborhood. All the houses, all the front doors face this park. It's a 5-acre park in the middle.
Is that the park where you saw Jillian?
Yes. Where we found the phone.
Finally, was Michelle's shirt wet?
Not that I recall.
Counsel, do either of you have follow-up questions? You may.
No other further questions from the state, Your Honor.
From the defense?
Just one more.
Thank you very much. You may step down. Next.
Your Honor, we just had a question whether we want to take the morning recess or we want to proceed.
It's now a good time to break?
Just fine with us.
Great. Okay. All right. Sounds good. Could I just ask you, ladies and gentlemen, when you give me questions, if you could leave them on at least half a sheet so that I have some room to write on them, that would be helpful. They do need to be preserved for the record. You'll note that I do that each time you provide questions to me. We'll now break for our morning recess. We'll take about 15 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, remember my admonition to you. It's your duty not to discuss any subject of this trial with each other or with anyone else. It's your duty not to form or express any opinions about how the case should be decided until you've heard all the evidence and it's submitted to you for deliberation. Avoid television, radio, internet news coverage of the trial. Don't use any electronic devices to do research on your own or to communicate with others about the trial. Court's in recess.